This nearly 40-acre mountain property in Colorado has a private gated road that takes you up to the high elevation point on the property, where you have a massive amount of level area to serve as the canvas of crafting your land dreams on this incredible property. Perhaps your dream is to have a mountain cabin, a barn dominium, a log home, a shipping container home. Perhaps you'd like to have a big workshop where you can toil away at your hobbies and store all of your toys. What about a greenhouse where you can grow fresh fruits and vegetables year-round? Or maybe you'd like to have multiple homes on the property for family, friends, colleagues, and/or clients. All of these are possible and can be achieved with vision, determination, and resources. Power has already been brought to the high elevation point on the property, and from this high elevation point you have breathtaking Rocky Mountain views of the Spanish Peaks and Sangre to Cristos. We'd like you to hear from the owner themselves what they experienced the first time they visited this property.
Oh my gosh. Our nearest neighbor there. This is beyond my wildest hallucinations. I never dreamed that it would be this beautiful. Oh my gosh. Sun setting. We're gonna watch the sunset.
The owner, Stephen, who you just heard in that clip, shared with us some of the things that he loves most about this property.
What I love about this property is the 360-degree views. Wind comes racing up the canyon over Church Pew Bluff, which is the main outcropping. And it's a spiritual moment when you're standing there looking in the canyon. There's abundance of wildlife I've seen, from hundreds of elk laying down in the canyon to bears, cougars, mule deer, the chipmunks. When I get to the property, it's a relief. Your mind just goes blank. You sit there and just take in the beauty. Everywhere you look, everywhere you walk, it's just peaceful. It's incredible.
As you hear Stephen talk about how much he loves this property, a question you may ask yourself is, if he loves it so much, why is he selling it? To answer that question, we need to go back to the fundamental mission of Landio, which is to help people realize their land dreams. And when we think about the achievement of land dreams, often the default thinking goes to purchasing land and then doing something with it. But with each property owner that chooses to sell their property, they're doing so because they have a plan for the proceeds, which is many times associated with the pursuit of a new land dream, which creates the opportunity for you to become the new steward of this incredible property. Here we have the 39.7 acres highlighted in green. If you look to the south, you'll see Burro Canyon Road, which is also known as County Road 53.5. And this white dotted line is the private gated road that leads you to the high elevation point on the property. These white circles represent the electricity lines and poles that are already on the property. And then along the east portion of the property is this blue dashed line, which represents the path of seasonal water flow. That path of seasonal water flow can also be referred to as an arroyo. Some people call it a wash, but it's essentially a channel where water has flowed over time, typically because it found it to be the path of least resistance. And unless there was a diversion or some resistance brought into place, that water will continue to flow there for decades or even centuries. If we go to the interactive map, there's some useful tools available. If you click on the base map and then go down to the vintage topo, you can see this blue line represented by 3 dots, and then a longer blue solid line, 3 dots again, and then a longer blue solid line. This marking symbolizes intermittent water flow. Intermittent means recurring at irregular intervals, which is the opposite of continuous or steady. There's another tool here which is the modern topo, and the modern topo also contains that same blue dashed and dotted line. If we go back to the satellite view, you'll see there are multiple options. Select Hex Aerial, and for this particular property, that view is the most up to date. And in this view, you can see the road on the property, along with a travel trailer and a small storage shed. And if we zoom out a little bit here, you can see the road where it then connects with County Road 53.5. Now, if we wanted to zoom out just a bit and then look at the different satellite options, but before we do, notice this anomaly here where you see the very evident contrast between these two images as they're stitching these satellite maps together. There are things that occur where they're connecting different timelines from when that image was captured. And it just so happens that as we're looking at this in this particular satellite view, we're able to see that differentiation. If we go look down where this path of seasonal water flow is, and we say seasonal because it's dry a majority of the time. But when it does have water, it's due to a weather event, which typically occurs during certain seasons. Some things that would occur which would cause water to be in that pathway include heavy rain and snow melt. We're going to just follow the path of this seasonal water flow for a moment, but before we do, we're going to change the base map over to Google because the zoomed in view is just a little bit clearer. And this is obviously an older satellite image because you see none of the road that was built on the property. As a matter of fact, if we look at the other base maps real quick, this is the MB satellite. Now there you see the road. And if we look at the NAPE satellite map, you do not see the road on this version. And these results vary across the country. So if there's a property that you're interested in, before you make that investment, check out the interactive map and look at those different views. And then also look at the things around the property. Let's go back to chasing this path of seasonal water flow. Select the Google base map, and then let's zoom in here right at the southeast corner of the property. You can see that path right there, and that continues below the county road. There's likely a culvert right here that enables the water to pass under. We continue south. See these ridges right here? That's erosion that's formed when there's a lot of water moving through this channel. You can see that path of seasonal water flow then extends south, following the path of the county road, or maybe it's vice versa, the county road is following the path of the water, but that extends south all the way down here till you reach State Highway 12, which is also referred to as the Highway of Legends. And this is the intersection where that county road intersects with the Highway of Legends. If we go back to that path of water, it eventually feeds into the Purgatory River. So we have the Purgatory River. Over here to the west are the Sangre de Cristos. Sangre de Cristo translates to the blood of Christ. So we have the Purgatory River, the blood of Christ mountains, and then we have this 39-acre property, which some people would describe as a slice of heaven on earth. And what did Stephen name that rock outcropping?
The main rock outcropping I call Church Pew Bluff. The reason I call it that is because literally I get goosebumps when I sit there. When I crawled up there the first time, it was just a spiritual, it was crazy. It just felt amazing.
And as we go into all these minute details of this property, it's amplifying just how unique each property is and why it's so important to pay attention to the details and then compare and contrast the pros and cons of all of the options that you have available. We're going to hop to the interactive map again for a moment. We'll click on the map legend and then overlays, and then we're going to select contour lines. Once that eye is blue, the contour line layer will be then turned on. Let's close that menu and let's look at these contour lines. The northwest corner is the high elevation point on the property, which is also where the road comes in. We're going to look at a version with the parcel fill turned off, and then we're going to zoom in and look at these lines. They call these contour lines because they follow the contour of the land. And each one of them has a measurement that indicates the elevation in feet. Up here at that high elevation point, you're at 7,100 feet. And the next line is 7,080 feet. So the difference between those two lines is 20 feet. And if we compare and contrast and zoom out just a little bit here, look at the distance between 7,100 feet in elevation and 7,080 feet in elevation down here. What that shows us is that this is a steep slope and this is a gentle slope. So the wider the distance is between those lines, the gentler the slope. And if you look where they're close together, that's indicating it's a shorter distance to drop that amount of feet in elevation. And the beautiful thing about this property is that you have this large area on the high elevation point of this property that's easily accessible through this private gated road that brings you right up here to the northwest corner. What I'm going to show you here is just a rough estimate. But if you go down here to these measurement tools, and if we click on the area measurement tool, and let's say we wanted to get a rough estimate of just this space right here inside this contour line where it's fairly level and could be an ideal location for a future home site. We're going to follow this contour line. We're going to change direction here a little bit, and we're just going to stay within this 7,080 feet elevation. This is roughly 4 acres, 3.93 acres. You can do a lot with nearly 4 acres. And even if you take out this portion right here where there's this rock outcropping, let's say you cut it down to 3 acres. That's a very large footprint. And that still leaves you a canvas of 36 additional acres. In this area over here, see the distance between these lines? It's a gentler slope than over here. But this is the high point. And if you've ever driven through Colorado, you'll see these homes like literally on the sides of mountains. They have to build retaining walls and all this crazy engineering just to even prepare the building pad. That's before the actual construction of the home even starts. And all of that takes a lot of money. When you compare and contrast to having this county road just south of the property that connects to this private gated road that then takes you up to the high elevation point on the property where you have breathtaking Rocky Mountain views, that has significant value. And we haven't even mentioned that just a few miles to the northwest is the entrance to the Spanish Peak State Wildlife Area. This is 6,400 acres of highly desirable Rocky Mountain land with tall ponderosa pines. There's open meadows and maintained roads, and you can realistically get to the entrance of the Spanish Peak State Wildlife Area from the property in like 15 minutes. And these 6,400 acres are desirable for hiking, camping, outdoor recreational activities, along with hunting of elk, mule deer, and wild turkey. And as Stephen mentioned, he's seen hundreds of elk just laying in the meadow around the property. In fact, this area of southern Colorado has one of the largest elk herds in the entire world. If you like what you've heard so far and you think that there's a potential for you and this property to be a good match for one another, then you should check out the 100+ images of this property and the surrounding area, along with property specifications, GPS coordinates, and that interactive map we've been showing you. If you're watching this video on YouTube, at the top of the description, there's an active link that takes you directly to the property details page. Once you're on the property details page, you can navigate to the Images tab, and then click the full screen icon and the grid icon, and that will enable you to view all of these images in a grid format. If there's one you'd like to enlarge, just click on that image and it will enlarge. Then you can navigate through all the images or go back to the grid format. Let's close the images, and the next tab is the interactive map. Here you can interact with the map, or you can select full screen, which will enable you to view the interactive map in a new tab. And below this main section, we have the contact information for the listing broker. This property is listed with Colorado real estate broker Danny Shuford of Western Life Real Estate. For questions or to purchase this property, please call or text Danny anytime. His number is 720-232-1350. Again, that number is 720-232-1350. And when you reach out to Danny, start the conversation with Landio ID Colorado Los Animas 56. Sometimes people just reference the parcel size and the price, which would be 39.7 acres for $250,000. But there are other 39.7 acre properties out there. Referencing the Landio ID leaves no question to which property you're inquiring about. You can also press the contact button and fill out this simple form, which will then be shared with Danny. If you like the way that we present properties here at Landio, and you have a property that you're looking to sell, whether you're the property owner, family member, or friend of the property owner, or you're engaged in some sort of professional representation, whether that be an attorney, a financial advisor, a real estate agent, or broker, click the sell button that you'll find on every page of our website. That will take you to a simple form where you provide just a few pieces of information. We'll then review that information and connect with you to discuss the property and the process. On behalf of myself, my family, and the entire team here at Landio, we sincerely appreciate your support. Thank you and God bless.